Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something really mind-blowing. We are going to zoom way in. We're starting from the macroscopic tools and the fundamental laws we use to measure the physical universe, and we're going all the way down into the incredibly complex microscopic architectures of plant and animal tissues. It's basically a journey that bridges the rigid mathematical world of physics right into the fluid living structures of biology. By the time we wrap up, you'll see exactly how deeply intertwined the physical and biological scales really are.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the scope of physics. 2, tools for precision measurement. 3, biological building blocks. 4, connective and muscle tissues. 5, the human nervous system. And finally, 6, supporting tissues in plants.
Section 1. The scope of physics. Exploring the rules of nature. Before we can even begin to measure the universe, we kind of have to understand the rules running the whole show, right? Physics is arguably the most basic and ancient of the sciences. It's all about observing nature, representing it mathematically, and then validating those ideas through rigorous experiments. And because our universe is just so incredibly vast, physicists have broken it down into branches. You've got mechanics dealing with motion and gravity, thermodynamics exploring heat and energy, and electromagnetism looking at charges. Then we zoom way in with atomic, nuclear, and particle physics to figure out the very constituents of matter. Optics and sound explore waves, while astrophysics looks out at the stars, and geophysics looks inward at the Earth's core. And what you really should take away from this is that discoveries in every single one of these branches are the exact reason we have modern conveniences today. I mean, everything from the smartphone in your pocket to advanced medical instruments comes directly from this.
There's this beautiful quote by the late Stephen Hawking that I think perfectly captures the driving force behind all this. He said, "No one undertakes research in physics with the intention of winning a prize. It is the joy of discovering something no one knew before." That right there is the passion of theoretical and experimental physicists. They aren't doing it for trophies, they do it to solve the fundamental mysteries of our reality.
Section 2. Tools for precision measurement. Defining the physical world.
To actually understand nature, we have to quantify it. In physics, a physical quantity is always a combination of a magnitude, like a real number, and a unit. There are 7 fundamental physical quantities. Think of these as the absolute base units of science, literally the alphabet of the physical universe from which everything else is built. We've got length, mass, time, electric current, temperature, amount of substance, and luminous intensity. Take length, for example, measured in meters. The modern definition of a meter isn't just based on some random stick in a museum anymore. It is precisely defined by the path traveled by light in a vacuum during a highly specific fraction of a second. We're talking 1/299,792,458 of a second. That is how meticulously we measure our reality.
Naturally, the scale of what we're trying to measure entirely dictates the instrument we choose. Take a standard meter rule. It's great for everyday objects, with its smallest reading being 1 millimeter. But, when scientists and engineers need to measure the thickness of a tiny wire, a millimeter is just way too clumsy. That's when they reach for a tool like the micrometer screw gauge. This brilliant little device is used for precision engineering. It actually measures extremely small dimensions by mechanically converting those tiny, imperceptible distances into larger rotational movements that we can easily read.
Another absolutely crucial precision instrument is the vernier caliper. This one features both a fixed main scale and a sliding vernier scale, and the way it works is just pure mechanical genius. First, you place your object securely between the jaws. Second, you look at where the zero line of the sliding vernier scale lands to get your main scale reading. Third, you hunt for the exact line on the vernier scale that perfectly aligns with a line on the main scale. That's what gives you your ultra-precise fraction. Finally, you just add the 2 readings together. It is astonishing how this simple mechanical alignment allows us to read ultra-precise fractions using nothing but the naked eye.
So we have the tools to measure down to a tiny fraction of a millimeter. But this raises a really fascinating question. When we look at living things, what wildly complex structures are actually hiding within that microscopic space? Well, let's zoom in and find out. Section 3. Biological building blocks. The architecture of life. Just as physics relies on those fundamental quantities like the meter and the second, biology relies on its own fundamental architectural units. At the core of this is the concept of a tissue. A tissue is essentially a group of cells working together to connect or bind different types of cells and structures in the body. Think of it as the biological mortar holding the bricks of your body together to create real structural integrity.
Section 4. Connective and muscle tissues, strength and fluidity. Now, what's really interesting about this is how specialized these tissues get, especially bone, or osseous tissue. Bones are classified morphologically by shape. You've got long bones like your femur that act as massive levers for movement, short, cube-shaped bones in your wrists for stability, flat bones like your skull for protection, complex, irregular bones like your vertebrae, and even tiny sesame seed-shaped sesamoid bones like your kneecap, embedded right in your tendons. But microscopically, they share a stunning architecture. The dense, solid outer layer is compact bone, organized into these neat cylindrical units called osteons or Haversian systems. Running right through their centers are canals housing blood vessels and nerves, with tiny spaces called lacunae housing the actual bone cells. Then, toward the interior, it shifts into spongy or cancellous bone. It looks like a porous honeycomb made of bony spikes called trabecula, filled with marrow. It's an absolute marvel of natural engineering that maximizes immense strength while minimizing physical weight.
Right alongside bone, we have other critical supporting tissues like adipose tissue. Driven by specialized cells called adipocytes, this tissue is specifically designed by nature to be your body's built-in bubble wrap. It provides physical cushioning for your vital organs and acts as a massive reservoir, storing excess fat and energy for the body to draw upon whenever it's needed.
Let's contrast two vastly different connective tissues to see how they govern physical properties. Take cartilage, like the flexible stuff you find in your ear. It has a dense, flexible matrix that gives structural shape but still has a bit of bend to it. Now contrast that with blood. Wait, blood is a connective tissue? Absolutely. It's a fluid connective tissue. Instead of a rigid matrix, you have red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets all freely suspended in liquid plasma. Two connective tissues doing completely different jobs with completely different physical structures.
Then, of course, we have muscle tissues. These contain the cells responsible for all your contraction and movement. There are three main types here: cardiac muscle, keeping your heart pumping; smooth muscle, running your internal organs; and skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle is what you use for everyday movement. It's physically anchored by strong connective cords called tendons to your skeleton, especially those long bones we talked about earlier, acting as biological levers to literally propel you forward through space.
Section 5. The human nervous system, the body's wiring.
Having all these bones and muscles is completely useless without a control system to transmit electrical impulses to them. So the crucial point is that the nervous system is this highly organized network originating in the brain and spinal cord, branching all the way out through spinal nerves. At the cellular level, we have specialized cells called neurons. Your sensory neurons feature receptors in the skin that detect physical stimuli from the outside world. They send an impulse that travels over long distances via nerve fibers, often using multipolar neurons with their branching dendrites and long axons. This signal is processed and sent right back down through motor neurons, which literally end right inside the muscle tissue, triggering a physical contraction. It is an extraordinary, high-speed electrochemical circuit.
Section 6. Supporting tissues and plants, nature's green engineering.
But hey, precise microscopic architecture isn't just an animal thing. Plants have evolved their own brilliant tissue systems to conquer the physical laws of gravity and their environment. Take collenchyma tissues, for example. You'll find these beneath the epidermis in young stems, in the midribs of leaves, and even in delicate flower petals. They're made of elongated cells with primary walls that are unevenly thickened. This gives the plant flexible support, so it can literally bend in the wind without snapping. Sclerenchyma tissues, on the other hand, take the exact opposite approach. They are designed to provide hard, unyielding, rigid strength to the plant.
And this brilliantly illustrates the concept of a compound or complex tissue in plants. What we're looking at is phloem. Unlike simple tissues made of just one cell type, phloem is a sophisticated network composed of multiple elements working together. Notice how the sieve tubes and the companion cells are actively interacting. Together, they manage the highly complex physical task of transporting nutrients and sugars all the way up and down the length of the plant, completely defying gravity.
Well, we have covered a ton of ground today. From the rigid mathematical laws of physics and the exacting tools we use to measure mere fractions of a millimeter, all the way down to the intricate living structures of osteons inside your bones and sieve tubes inside plants. It really begs the question, how does understanding this hidden microscale change the way you see the physical world around you? The next time you pick up a simple ruler or even just bend your arm, I want you to remember the vast, invisible universe of structural perfection making it all possible. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep exploring.